Hello, welcome back to another session. Here we will be discussing 2017's question paper. What other questions came from the lesson How do organisms reproduce? In the previous session we have done 2018 and 19. All the questions came from the same lesson. Here we go with the first question. When a cell reproduces, what happens to its DNA? We know that DNA is very important for transferring the characters from one generation to the next generations, right? So DNA duplication, DNA replication, these are very important, and they will be equally distributing the chromosomes to the daughter cells. So we will check the exact points. When a cell reproduces, its DNA is copied, that is replicated, and passed to the offsprings or to the next generation. Because of DNA, hereditary information is passed from one generation to the next generations. So DNA is the means by which information is passed to next generations. So already we have discussed, right? DNA is carrying a lot of information and traits, etc., which needs to be passed to the offsprings. So this is possible because of DNA replication, and they will be pushing the equal amount of DNA to their offsprings. When a cell begins to reproduce, its DNA first doubles. That means each chromosome doubles to form two copies of itself. This DNA is then split into the two cells which are formed when reproduction of the cell completes. The same thing I will be just showing you a diagrammatical way. Here you can see the mother cell is here. She's having the chromosomes in that. In separate colors it is showing in this diagram, where you can see the blue chromosome, right? The thread is duplicated, as well as the green also done the duplications or replications. And by the division or through the progress of the division, you can see the chromosomal number or the chromosomes are equally shared into the two daughter cells, right? If you check the chromosomal strands in that two daughter nucleus, you can see that the equal amount of the chromosomes are passing to the next generations. And second question is, reproduction is one of the most important characteristics of living beings. Give 3 reasons in support of the statement. Obviously, the life in the world or in the earth is possible only because of the process of reproduction. If the reproduction is not happening, obviously all the organism will going to extinct. Every species is able to continue their varieties in this world only because of reproduction, whether it is asexual mode of reproduction, whether it is sexual mode of reproduction, whatever it is. So here we check the exact answer. It is the necessity of the living organisms to increase their number in order to maintain the continuity of the species. Reproduction is the process through which one organism gives rise to a similar organism of its own kind. It is one of the most important characteristics of the living organism. This is the method which allows the survival of the species. If reproduction does not take place, no living being will survive on this earth, and all the organism will go extinct. These are the same point I have told you before also. For the survival, for the continuity of the life in the earth is only because of reproduction. Here we go with some points which deals almost same sense or same meaning, but here we go with that. Reproduction helps in increasing the number of members of a population. Obviously, by the process of reproduction, they can increase the population size. By replacing the dead members with the new ones, it minimizes the risk of extinction of a species. Obviously, we know that for the maintenance of the population size, it could be balanced. The death rate and the birth rate should be balanced. Otherwise, the population size is going to decline. So, Death rate is there. Obviously, death rate will be there in any populations. At the same time, the birth rate also should be there. Then only that particular kind of species can maintain their population size. It brings about variations in species, thus leading to the evolutions. We have already learned by the process of reproduction, they are bringing variations in the organisms. These variations are helping all the kind of organisms to get adjusted with the changing environment. It brings some adaptations in their lives. So that helps the evolution as well as speciation. These are the importance of variation and these are the importance of reproduction. Now we will go with this question. What is vegetative propagation? State two advantages and two disadvantages of this method. Here we have to define what is vegetative propagation. As you know, vegetative propagation is a type of asexual mode of reproduction seen in plants who cannot carry a seed with that. So these kinds of plants are able to propagate, able to make their next generations maybe through their roots, leaves, and through stem. Just like how we are making rose plants, hibiscus, bougainvillea, like we are cutting the stems and planting into different grow bags. Otherwise, in the case of Bryophyllum and Begonia, we know that we will be having some leaflets in their leaf margin and they are capable of growing as a new individual. Like that, many organisms are there who all are unable to propagate through seeds. They are using this vegetative propagation methods. Here we go with the exact ones. Vegetative propagation is a process in which any vegetative part of a plant like root, stem, or leaf give rise to a new plant under appropriate conditions. And here we have listed two advantages of vegetative propagation and two disadvantages. In the advantages, large number of plants obtained in a short interval of time. Second point, propagation of seedless plants is made possible. So it is very easy and convenient for us to make a large number of plants in a short period of time. That is the best positive side of this vegetative propagation. And it is convenient for the plants who cannot bear the seeds with that. So they are able to propagate. They are able to generate their coming generations, next generations by this method. Second, disadvantages. No genetic variations, so less adaptability to the environment. We know that the percentage of variation is very less in the case of asexual mode of reproduction. They will be making almost exact duplicates of the parent plant. So the chances of the variation is very, very, very negligible. We cannot say that there is no variations in asexual reproduction, but when we compare the percentage, it is less. So the chances of genetic variation is less. So we know that the adaptability also comparatively less because we know that the changing environment is there. So the variations are helping the organism to get adjusted with this changing environment. In that aspect, the adaptability will be comparatively less. And second point, the disease of plants gets transferred to the offsprings. As we have said already, we have discussed like they will be almost exactly similar to the parent plant. So whatever diseases or whatever problems will be there in the parent plant will be continued to the next generations. The same way we can say it as a positive feedback, like the qualities, the good qualities also will be continued to the next generations. Okay, the same way we can take it as a negative point also, like disadvantage also. All the diseases or any kind of problems in the parent plant is continuing in the coming generations also. So these are the advantage and disadvantages of vegetative propagation. Now we are discussing list 3 techniques in that have been developed to prevent pregnancy. Which one of this technique is not meant for males? How does the use of these techniques have a direct impact on the health and prosperity of a family? There are many methods to prevent the pregnancy, and usually we say that when the couples are ready to accept a child physically, mentally, and economically, okay, so that time they can plan for a child. Otherwise, will be very tough for them to carry a baby and take care of the baby, and it's not a simple job. So that planning should be there. When they are ready to accept a child, they can have a pregnancy. Otherwise, here we will be checking how can we prevent the pregnancies. So there are methods are there for preventing the pregnancy. Here they are demands only three kind of methods to prevent the pregnancy. So we have listed three. First one is barrier method or mechanical method. In this method, it's just like a physical method to prevent the pregnancy, and they can use the condoms, they can use the IUC, the intrauterine contraceptive devices, or diaphragms. So by using any of this, they can prevent the pregnancy. Chemical methods, contraceptive pills are the chemical substances or hormones in the form of pills to prevent pregnancy. This is the second method of preventing pregnancy, and we know that taking pills continuously for preventing pregnancy is not good for the body because it will be having a lot of side effects too. Third method is given here is surgical methods. In the surgical method, vasectomy and tubectomy are the process that are used. So vasectomy means we know that vas difference is the tube which carry the sperm from the testis to the penis. So we will be blocking that. Okay. So the surgery done in the vas difference is known as vasectomy, and the same way the surgery doing in the oviduct or fallopian tube is known as tubectomy. These are the two surgical methods that we can follow for preventing the pregnancies. And out of these three methods, we know that which is not meant for the men. So out of these three, chemical method is the one which is not meant for the men, because the pills and the hormonal pills or injections, whatever it is, they're taken by the females only, not by the males. So they can inhibit the fertilization and all. So the girls or the ladies or the females are taking this kind of preventive methods by using chemicals. And these kinds of methods, these three kinds of methods are helping the prevention of ovulation, then fertilization, then implantation, and thus there is no pregnancy. We know that if the ovulation is not happen, if the fertilization is not happen, if the implantation of the zygote to the uterus is not happen, in any of these three cases is not happening, obviously there is no pregnancy will be taking place. So this, by taking any of this method, we can prevent all these steps in the pregnancy. And next, here we will be checking what are the other aspects of that. And by taking the preventive measures, what are the benefits or how it is going to affect the life of that person's. Obviously, we know that should be some planning. The gap between the children must be there. If there is no gap between the children, we know that the parents cannot take care of all in a good way. So enough gaps will be there. If between the children is there, it could be better for taking care of the children. Okay, they can give good time for the first one, and they can plan for some years, and they can have the second one. So they will be having some quality time with the children. So that could be better. The use of this technique helps in controlling population explosion, thus providing better living conditions. It helps in keeping proper gap between siblings, thus gives better health to mother as well as children. This also helps in regulating the health conditions of the female and the children. The method helps in maintaining the size of the families. As the larger the size of the family, the more negative impacts fall on the economic status of the family. Obviously, we know that for running a family, they need some, money is very important factor. They should be economically sound family. Otherwise, it will be difficult for the family members to run the family. So, population size or the family size is very, very, very important. And Contraceptive devices like condoms also helps in preventing from different sexually transmitted diseases. So not only for controlling the pregnancy, we know that these kinds of methods are helping them to prevention of the transferring of this sexually transmitting diseases like STDs like AIDS, gonorrhea, and syphilis. Okay, so these are the all the points which is coming under that question. And next, we will be checking write the functions of each of the following parts in the human female reproductive system. The same question were there in the 2018 that I have uploaded earlier. The previous session I have discussed the same question. So 17 and 18 they have asked the same question from this lesson. So we have to list out the functions of the ovary, uterus, and fallopian tube. In 2018, they have asked you oviduct, not use the word fallopian tube. Here we go. Ovary, the functions of the ovaries, it's producing in every 28 days, and releasing of the ovum is known as ovulation. Okay, so that is done by the ovary, and the fertilized egg will be going to, that is called zygote. Okay, zygote will be moved and get inside the uterus and get implanted, and it will be getting all the nourishment from the uterus, and it is growing as an embryo, then into fetus, etc. So uterus, in this part, embryo develops and it provides safety and nourishment to the embryo. And third one is fallopian tube, or it is also known as oviduct. These tubes are joined to the upper part of the uterus. Through this route, eggs travels from the ovary to uterus. It is a site of fertilization. That last point is very, very important. That is a site of fertilization. And it's a tube, right? From both the sides of the uterus, it's having a hand-like structure that is called the oviduct, through which the egg is passing from the ovary to the uterus, right? And this is also the site of fertilization. And yeah, and today's last question. To perform an experiment to identify the different parts of an embryo of a dicot seed, first of all, you require a dicot seed. Select a dicot seed from the following group. Out of the given options, you have to choose the correct pair, correct option, like which is a dicot. Okay, so before that, you should have an idea like what is a dicot and what is a monocot. A dicot means the seeds which we can split into two halves or split into two seed leaves, like a cashew nut, like a pistachio, right? We are able to split them into two halves. So that is called dicot. At the same time, that we cannot split into two equal halves is known as, monocot. Wheat, rice, this we cannot, and date seed, this we cannot split them into two equal halves. So that kind of seeds are known as monocot. Out of this given, wheat, gram, pea, maize, pea, barley, we know that wheat is a monocot, and maize is a monocot, and gram, maize, groundnut, they are, maize is there, which is the monocot. Gram, pea, groundnut. So the correct answer for this question is gram, pea, and groundnut. Okay, so this much question we will be discussing in this lesson, and in the next lesson session I will be just sharing with you some questions of the same lesson which is in the year 2016. Okay, so by checking all the question you might come to know that like how much time they are repeating the same sort of questions and what are the areas that you have to focus more and more. Okay, so I hope this session will be helpful for you, and use this as a revision tool, and please focus all the question answers which is coming from this portions. Okay, so please prepare well and try to get a good mark. Okay, thank you so much and see you on the next session.